What's up, everybody? This is Norm from the Board Game Museum, and today I thought I would share with you some frequently asked questions that I often will get, and I thought I would share with you the answers on them so you can check them out. So let's go ahead and go with the first question. The Board Game Museum is a channel that mainly focuses on vintage board games. When I first started this, I had actually started discovering some older games, and I really liked them. And so I started to do some reviews on them. The games will cover games from companies like Milton Bradley, Parker Brothers, the 3M Bookshelf Company, Pressman, many older companies. Typically, the games will range from 1950s on up, but I have had some older than that. There are some games that I would love to have that are like even from the 1800s on up, that are really beautiful to look at, but they're typically roll and move, and they're really expensive. But that would be something I'd like to do one day. But generally what this channel is, it's a channel that basically focuses on vintage board games. Now, we don't just focus on vintage board games. We have a section where I'll review different Kickstarters. I also have a section where I will review different Monopoly variants. Those have become pretty popular in the last couple of years. And then we got some shows and different things like that, just about board games. So that's what our channel is about. The channel started probably in the early 2010s. My wife and I, before we got married, liked to play a lot of card games. She got me into the hobby, and we would just start to buy more and more of these card games and things. And then one day we went into a thrift store, and they had a stack of games, and I was looking at them, and they were really cheap. So I think the first game I bought was a game called Football Fever, and I really liked it. And then I would keep going, and then I found some other older games that I really liked. And so I started just kind of do research on some of the companies that made these older games, and I was looking for videos. And at the time, I didn't really see any videos on any of these older games. So I said, well, I've got a small collection here, so maybe I'll go ahead and start doing it. It's something I enjoy. And so the first video I ever posted was on the game Advancement Boardwalk. And then I did one on a card game called Luck Plus, which has been lost in time. It was a really good game. And I just started to make videos, and slowly but surely, people found my page, and they would contact me, they would subscribe, and it just kind of built from there. It's totally built organically. I didn't have any advertisements or anything like that. It just kind of built over time, and it's been fun. My favorite game? Well, I get asked this question a lot, and that is a really hard question to answer because there are so many good games. I can give you a few. Probably the number one game, if I had a top 10 list, I would probably put Hero Quest on there. Mainly because this game started a genre all its own. It's a fantastic game. I love the game. I love the idea behind the game. I love the components. And this game, even though it was made like in 1990 or somewhere in there, people are still playing it. People are still making their own stories, making their own characters. And Hasbro actually just re-released it not too long ago. And they were able to basically make the money that they needed in about a week, which was, I think, at least $2-3 million or something like that. Some crazy amount. But I would say that's probably my favorite game, but I don't play it that much. But I think if I had to choose one, it would be that. Now, if there was a game that if I were to put out on the table to kind of wow people, it would probably be Fireball Island, the original one. Reason for that is, it's a 3D game. It looks pretty cool. It has marbles, and if you have people who have never played games that much before, they're going to look at this thing and go, wow. But it's an easy game to learn. It's always been a fun game to play. It's just fun playing with marbles, knocking people over, and it's always been a blast. If I had to pick a card game right now, there's one I'm playing called OT, and this is actually a Kickstarter, and to me, it's a great game. It basically has these Old Testament characters or people in there. And basically what you're doing is you're drafting cards to try to make up a lineup to try to score the most amount of points. Some cards will kill off other cards, but then there is a card that if you end up killing off other cards, you can put the cards under there and you'll score points that way. They've got locations that can add to things, subtract to things, but you're trying to get the best team out of all these different cards, and love that game. If I had to choose, say, a 3M Bookshelf game, which I love 3M Bookshelf games. Anybody who likes older games should definitely check them out. Mr. President would probably be the one that I would go for. And then Acquire is a really good game too. But there's just so many games. I mean, it's really hard to pick a favorite, which is probably why we make top 100 lists. But those are a few of them. Right now, we probably have between 450 and 500 games. We usually keep them in our garage. If I hadn't either sold or given them away, we probably have about 1,500 to 2,000 games, but we just don't have the room for them. But our own personal collection, we have about 450 to 500. Well, mainly thrift stores. We live in an area that's got some pretty good thrift stores, and we just get our games mainly from there. Otherwise, we'll go on eBay or Amazon. We used to go to yard sales and estate sales. Those are pretty good places to find games. I've only maybe found 2 games at an estate sale, but I've met people that have found like I think one person I met, he got about 200 games or something crazy like that. So that's usually where we'll find the games. My greatest game find. Well, I'll give you a few. We found a acquired game made from Avalon Hill, and the game I think goes for about $100 now, and we got it for about $3. Another one, there was a Harry Potter, it was a Cena game, but it was the trilogy, and that one sold for about $70. And then we found some electronic chess games that sold for about $80. This is kind of few and far between. But yeah, you'll find some pretty good things. We found Battle Masters doing thrifting as well. So we actually have a series where where I'll go just video what I'm finding at thrift stores and whether I ended up getting it or not. So we actually have that series too. Favorite Monopoly game? Well, ironically enough, we have about 15 different Monopoly games here, but the oldest, the regular version, is not my favorite. I'm kind of like so about that game. But as far as variants go, they've made some pretty good ones. It's hard for me to really tell what a favorite would be, but Mega Monopoly, I really enjoy. Monopoly City, I really enjoy. Monopoly Tropical Tycoon is a really good one too. It has a DVD in it. Monopoly Disney Villains was a fun one. And I think the Monopoly Target Edition was an interesting one too. It's kind of like, it could be its own separate game. If I actually had to pick my favorite out of all those, that's a tough call. I would probably pick either Monopoly City, Monopoly Tropical Tycoon, or Monopoly Mega. One of those 3 probably. Well, purging games, if you've ever had a collection and you've had to try to make room for others, it can be really difficult to let go of a game. But the thing I do now is, the way I think of it is like pawning a game. If you've ever seen like Pawn Stars, you know sometimes people will pawn items for money and then they can come back and pay for it later to pick it up because they need money. Well, I kind of think of games as the same way. I ended up selling my Dark Tower game that I had. I really didn't want to, but I thought to myself, I could always just buy this game later. It's always going to be available, even though it's rare. Unless the internet goes down, you're always going to be able to find these things on eBay or Amazon or somewhere. They'll be somewhere. So I kind of think of it as like pawning a game. If I end up selling a game to somebody, I can always buy it back at some point if I want to. And, they're usually games that I don't play or haven't played in several months, up to a year or whatever, and they're just kind of sitting on the shelf collecting dust. So that's kind of how I do it. If I just look at a game and say we haven't played it, I'll sell it. Editing software. Well, I use a software called Wondershare Filmora. There's several different ones that you can use, but that's the one that I use. I used to use the one that Microsoft had. I can't remember what it was called, but I think the versions of Windows cut that part out, so we ended up using Wondershare Filmora. And I enjoy it. It does what I need to do, and it's pretty simple to use, and there's a lot of different features on it. But that's the one that I use. All right, guys. Y'all take care. Keep on gaming. We'll see you next time.